All right, guys. So I was busy all day today, so I'm going to do a different kind of video today. And as you can probably tell from the title or whatever, the title, I think it's down there. Where's the title at? The title down there, yeah. Well, as you can tell from the title, I'm going to be reacting to some viewer comments today because I know I've talked a lot about discussions and things, and I get a lot of really cool comments from you guys that make me have a lot of thoughts. And I know that most people probably won't watch this because it's a react video, so it'll probably be the couple hundred people who watch the content regularly and are in here and everything. So this is for you guys. I'll be probably doing this like kind of once a week now. I get a lot of really cool comments and I try to reply to them in text, but it's sort of hard to get some of the complex thoughts that I have out into a text conversation. And so it's easier for me to do it like this. And since I don't stream or anything, it's hard to have these conversations in real time. In the future, I could even see bringing people on and maybe talking to them directly if people would be down for that. But for now, we're going to do this, and I'm going to respond to some comments. And I thought the first one that I was respond to is one that I got like just an hour ago from this guy, SkirtyRat27, where he said that I should do a video on Call of Duty, and then which I said I've genuinely played less than 10 hours of COD in my entire life. And then he said, "Wow, tough crowd, LOL." And I wouldn't mind doing a video on Call of Duty, but it would be difficult for me to react to a Call of Duty video because I have so little experience with it. It's not something like MapleStory or RuneScape or World of Warcraft or Spyro or Tomba or the Fortnite or just Dead by Daylight. Any of these games that I've played an absolute ton of, that when I react to a video, I can notice all the little niche things and have a whole bunch of conversation about it. So it's a little bit more difficult for me to do a reaction video to something like that, unless there's some kind of controversy or some that sort of goes outside of the game and talks more about inner workings of people or developers and all that kind of stuff. So I have to wait for the right opportunity. But I think it would be really interesting for me to talk about why I've never played Call of Duty before, honestly, let's have a little story time. When I first started playing video games, I was 2-3 years old. I mean, I was at my cousin's house, and they had a Nintendo Entertainment System, and they had the third Castlevania game or second Castlevania game. No, the third Castlevania game where you could play as other characters. And I saw that game, and I was super interested in video games right away. And I got a Sega Genesis for Christmas like a year later or something, and I had Toy Story for Sega Genesis, and I played that game a lot, and it was really hard, and I would go and rent games for the Sega Genesis for about 2 years, and then eventually I got a PlayStation 1, and I got a PlayStation 1 with Spyro the Dragon, and that game dominated my life for a super long time. And when I was playing video games as a kid, it was a very, I don't want to say niche because tons of people were already doing it. It's not like I was on some kind of first wave of video games. They had been around for a very long time, but it was definitely a more nerdy thing. People who were more stereotypical, what you would consider to be bros, guys, looked at video games and thought it was some pretty nerdy shit, and they were pretty not into it. Finding video games that were interesting and unique and different was sort of a challenge. You went into a game store, and there was just a wall of all of these jewel cases or cartridges or boxes for Nintendo 64, and you would have to sort of hope that one of them was good, and you would a lot of times rent them back then and play them and either like them or not like them. But you really found games through the recommendations of other people, a lot of times older kids, and a lot of times those older kids were deeply nerdy, anime watching, strange movie viewing. You'd go over to their house and they'd have some kung fu movie playing or something, just really different types of people. And so that happened for quite a while. That happened through all of PlayStation 1. You know, you think of the games that were popular back then, it was games like Resident Evil, it was games like Turok, it was games like Blasto and Tomba, and just really interesting different kind of experiences that took you through to places that were either really unique or had some kind of appeal to them that was a fantasy in everyone's brain that they wanted to live out, like fighting zombies, being in a zombie apocalypse. What would that be like? Living in a horror movie, horror games, this whole notion, fighting dinosaurs, Jurassic Park, that whole thing, fighting with swords and shields and playing RPGs. These were all fantasies that people lived out. And then one fantasy really started to dominate. And when the time that Xbox came out, Halo came out with it, and then all these shooting games started getting more and more popular. Medal of Honor was rising in popularity, and then Xbox 360 comes out, and this game that's sort of been getting more and more steam called Call of Duty releases Modern Warfare 2, and everything changes in video games. All of a sudden, a bunch of people who have never played video games before started playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, and it stopped being this niche nerds do this kind of thing. It became this hyper competitive, super masculine, scream into a microphone, yell at each other, and get really good at Twitch-based shooting type of thing. And that's totally fine. I have no problem with that. I'm not here gatekeeping video games. It just was not the reason that I was into video games. Watching all of these people who had previously talked a lot of smack to me for being super into video games, all of a sudden making it a huge part of their personality because this new one came out where you could shoot people and it felt really realistic, just gave me a weird vibe, and it really turned me off to Call of Duty for a long time. And even now as an adult that I actually would like to play some Call of Duty, I'm now so far behind on the meta loop of what Call of Duty is. I know that they've put out a whole bunch of different games over the years, but it's really kind of the same game, and people who have been following along this whole time have a much more kinship with it, have a much deeper ability to be able to play it than what I do, and that makes it really difficult for me to pick up and play. I tried to play in Advanced Warfare because that one came out for free, and then the Modern Warfare 2 Remaster came out for free on PlayStation at one point, and I picked that up, and I played that for a little while, but I couldn't really get into it. So my experience with Call of Duty has basically been playing zombies at friends' houses and having no idea what I'm doing, and them yelling at me for not spending my money in the right place or getting the box when I should have or being able to open the right doors or whatever. So that was never a good experience. And then the experience that I did have an absolute blast with, but other people didn't want to do it as much, was playing Prop Hunt in the Modern Warfare 2 remaster. That was extremely fun, and I had a blast with that. And like I said, I would love to play Call of Duty. There's some games that have this sort of weird spot in my brain, and I'm sure you can all relate to that there's just certain games and music albums and all these other things that just have this spot in your brain that occupies this I don't do that thing space, and that's a hard block to get through. But especially as I'm getting older and I've cranked through so many different types of games and I've gotten more into shooting games as I've gotten older, I think that my time with Call of Duty is coming, and I will end up playing it. And when I do, I'll probably get absolutely obsessed with it and learn how to get really good at it and spend a lot of time trying to get good enough to kill 14-year-olds online and have them send me hate messages, because that's one of my greatest joys in life. So yeah, there's... I don't like to disappoint people. I don't like the idea of someone who watches my channel really wanting me to do a specific thing, and then you're probably just not going to get that out of me. And the time may come where there is something that I cover with Call of Duty that's Call of Duty themed, but right now I just don't think that that's who I am or where I'm at. And so the way I responded to him, I think he felt like I was talking shit, and I really wasn't. I come off really cold in text messages, and that's why I prefer to make videos, because you can see more of the way I actually feel and interact. But when I type just super straight from my brain, and sometimes it comes off sounding really cold, and I promise I don't mean it that way. Okay, on to the next one. So I got this other comment on my Maple Story video. I got a couple comments on my Maple Story videos that I want to talk about that I think will be interesting little talk. So this one is an interesting one. In my Maple Story video, if you missed it, basically I argued for the points of why I think Maple Story is worth playing. And that was sort of a really complicated thing, as you can tell by the way that the video was 56 minutes long. But I got some good comments about it, and it really outlines something that I think is interesting about the people who play video games and why you play video games and why you do all these things. So let's talk about that. This person said, the answer is a big no. I downloaded again, tried to play it. I was stuck in cutscene land for hours. I would get randomly teleported and magically get job advancements. I had no clue what was going on. I was just spamming spacebar to get through the dialogue, and then any second I could play, it was all scripted. It makes me feel physically ill to the point I even contacted support to ask about it, only to receive an NPC response telling me to enjoy the game how it is. Deeply saddened. Private servers are the way to go, it seems. So this person immediately and once again, I'm not angry at anybody. I'm glad that this person commented this. I'm happy to have them watching videos. I'm happy to be responding to them. But I am going to speak my mind. They showed their hand immediately by saying deeply saddened private servers are the way to go, it seems. The only reason you would want to play a private server of a video game is if you played the game before at a time when it was in a different state, and now you want to go back to that state and play that game again. And that's totally fine. The nostalgia that you have for the game is totally valid, and you get to feel that way, and you get to want to play the game that you played as a younger person. I think that classic servers in World of Warcraft are a great experience for the people who played World of Warcraft back then. But there's obviously going to be a but. I don't think that a game owes you to be what it was 20 years ago when it released. MapleStory came out a very long time ago. It was a very archaic system when it came out, and the game has evolved, and the game has put out decades of content now. And you're saying that it's just cutscene after cutscene and it's all scripted. That's not the experience for every single class that you play in MapleStory. When you play MapleStory, when you play a game in MapleStory, the classes that you play all have a different storyline, and some of them have almost no storyline at all. The Explorer classes, which are the original classes in MapleStory, are sort of very similar to the way they were before. You start out on Maple Island, you go through Maple Island, you get off there, you go to get your first job advancement, blah, blah, blah. There's some new quest lines built in. The way you get your job advancements is a little bit different because the game has changed since then, but mostly you're just playing through the game and you can grind however you want and do all of that. And so if you're a brand new, or if you're a returning player to MapleStory, or maybe even if you're brand new, that might be the pathway that you want to go. They're the more simple kinds of characters. They have easier to understand stories. They're a system that is easy to pick up and play and can get you pretty far in the game. Now, when you pick a character that has come out in the past 5 to 10 years, and I said this in a later comment, when you pick a character who's come out in the past 5 to 10 years, you're picking a character that's really deep in the game cycle. And that is putting yourself in peril. It's like logging into World of Warcraft after having not played since the Burning Crusade, and then jumping in, getting a character boost, and jumping into the most recent content and going, why isn't this just basic World of Warcraft that I remember? And it's like, well, because the game has been out for a really long time, and it's updated and had a whole bunch of different things. That doesn't make the game invalid. And in fact, this is a thing that I really like about MMOs, and a thing that I really like about games that stay current over a long period of time, is that if you come back into a game, there's a whole bunch of information that you don't know about the game. There's a whole bunch of metas going on. There's a whole bunch of places to go and things to do, and you don't know any of those things. And so you get to discover all of those things over the long term. And if you log into a class that is new and has this deep storyline that they've been building up over all this time, which I don't give a shit about, by the way. Like, I totally get why you wouldn't want that. And then you're upset that it's not the game that you remember it being. It's like, well, yeah, it's new content for this game that came out a couple years ago and a game that's been around for 20 years. Of course it's going to be different and updated. He goes on to say that after I commented back and said, yeah, games take time to get into. I promise you're missing out on a completely different kind of experience if you haven't gotten at least 3 to 6 characters over level 200. And that's the truth. This game is an interesting, unique experience that plays unlike any MMO you've ever played, probably. and that this game takes time to get into, just like any game. You know, your first 3 hours in a game is going to be different than your next 10 hours in the game, is going to be different than your next 30 hours in the game, and you're going to have to learn new mechanics along the way. If you expect to jump into a game that you've never experienced and have it feel like every other game you've ever played, well, then I really just don't I don't know really why you want to play this one and not just something else, other than, as I said earlier, probably a nostalgia thing, which is what got me back into MapleStory, so I don't have any problem with that. And those options are available with private servers and things, but that's just not the game that it is today, and that's not the game that I was trying to argue for. And so when you come around and you're saying, well, this isn't the game that I used to play, it's just an interesting take to have, in my opinion. And they said, that's part of the problem. I want to enjoy a game from the start. I have limited time available, and it's frustrating to waste what time you have on basically not gaming and just reading dialogue and being coerced, which if I wanted to play a game like that, there are plenty to pick from. As a game developer myself, I also agree that you shouldn't need to promise fun after grind. That's just a flawed approach. If the late game is so much more fun, why even bother with the early game? So I don't think that the late game in MapleStory is better than the early game. I think that the late game in MapleStory is arguably significantly worse. The most fun I had in MapleStory was grinding a ton of characters up to level 200 in order to fill out my Legion, in order to get my Link skills, in order to figure out all of those different metas and how to get around in the game really quickly and level up a character from level 1 to 200 in 2 hours. I like speed running in video games. I enjoy getting through a game really quickly. I want to have an experience as quickly as possible, and that's very available to you in this game, just like it is in most MMOs, but it takes some understanding of the systems that are at play, and I think that that's a really valid reason to play the game. I do understand some games get more fun the further into the late game you get, but it should never be an excuse for devs to drag players through a not fun early game, you know. I once again disagree. I just don't think the early game in MapleStory is not fun. I think that, you know, he saw that I said you should get 3 to 6 characters over level 200, and he thought I meant that means that that's in-game content. That's not in-game content. That is 30 to 50 hours into the game, depending on how quickly you level up your characters and what events you take advantage of and do all those things. And this is all part of learning what MapleStory is. It's a game that is different than a lot of games that you've played. It has a lot of mechanics that are very unique to it, like a system where all of your characters sort of build their power together and channel it into one specific character in order to make them your main character. It's a game where if you get really good at it, you can expedite the process of how to get through it. And I would compare it more to something like old school RuneScape than I would to something like World of Warcraft, or, I mean, heck, if you're talking about a game that you want to jump in and have fun, even something like Fortnite. It's not that kind of experience. And if you only have a limited amount of time to devote to video games, I understand that too. But here's the thing. You can just play this game for an hour or two here and there and devote what time you have to it and see how that experience treats you over time. If you want immediate enjoyment out of something, I probably wouldn't recommend an MMO to you. That's not really what I think that they do best. I think MMOs are good as games that you could foreseeably play for 100 to 1,000 plus hours. And that's what I think they're meant to be. I think it's a game that sort of expects that you invest a lot of time into it. And I don't think they're wrong for making a game like that. Not everyone has that kind of time, and I respect that. But if you think about it, over the course of the next 10 years, don't you have that kind of time? Like, everybody wants a video game to be their game forever for some reason. They think that this is going to give them some kind of fulfillment. But I don't think that way about games. And I think that thinking that way about games is what creates this problem in our brains about video games. I play music. I've talked about this before. This is going to go somewhere, I promise. When I practice guitar, I don't sit down and think, well, I really need to be able to learn this song in the next 30 minutes, or else it's a waste of my time to try to learn this song. I think, oh boy, I really want to learn this song. It might take me months to learn that song. I might have to build a whole bunch of skills. I might have to learn how to thump, which is like a really difficult pattern of plucking on strings that requires multiple fingers. And I maybe never thumped before. And that might be something that I have to learn a whole bunch of scales to figure out how to get a pattern that feels good to do it. I might have to go and study a bunch of different rhythmic patterns and how they sort of fit together on a metronome. And it might take me a really long time to get there, but the experience of getting there is the thing that gave me enjoyment at the end of the day. It wasn't having got there. And that's a really fun thing to do. And that's why I enjoy getting to play all these different kinds of games, is that I like that I've been able to play them. But I just think that sort of framing a video game as being this thing that has to reward you immediately is how you get bad video games. It's how you get the kind of video games where you can pay a bunch of money for gacha characters and you get, you spend $400 and you guaranteed pull Zhongli or whatever in Genshin Impact. That's how I think you get that kind of video game, is that you expect to not have to put in a whole bunch of time to be rewarded for the time that you put in. So yeah, that's the way I feel about that comment. What the fuck is this video, dude? Okay, there was another one on here that I thought was interesting. Where was it? Oh, yeah, here we go. Haha, a really rich bossing community. Yeah, really rich. Spend like 50K to 100K USD on a character and you're almost in-game. Don't play it. It's so pay to win, and if you go reboot, then you have to fight on subpar maps due to guild control, Maple Story politics, bots, you name it. You'll never be as good as anyone who started before you, almost zero catch-up, and bossing is such a tight-knit community that they really don't like picking up new players unless their range is mega well status. Okay, so this is another thing. I talk a lot on this channel, and I sort of allude to this. This is like a concept of my thinking, the way I view the world. There are certain things that just attract certain types of people. And video games do this weird thing because it's a world within a world where you can express dominance. It's a smaller subset of the population that you're competing against, so you might be able to become dominant in this where you haven't been able to become dominant in the real world. And I'm not trying to psychoanalyze this person. These are generalizations. This comment just made me think about it. So Ian Farrell 2182, you're golden, dude. I'm not talking shit about you, I promise. This is just the way I feel about a lot of people. People go into a video game with the expectation that they should be able to become extremely high tier, respected, and thought of in that video game. And you see it everywhere. People play Fortnite endlessly. People play World of Warcraft endlessly, and they want to talk online and go to Reddit and talk about, yeah, so my parse this week, had my DPS here, and I only started 2 months ago, so like I'm doing pretty good. And like, I just think that is silliness incarnate, that you're playing a video game and you're sort of trying to get clout and trying to define who you are as a person by how well you're doing in that game. And to the point that you think that people who started a decade before you did or 10 years before you did and have put in countless hours more than you have, that you should be able to catch up to them really, really quickly. I know that it's funny to me, this comment of you'll have to fight on subpar maps due to guild control, Maple Story politics, bots, you name it. This is what people complain about there not being in other MMOs. This is what people remember fondly from before, is the idea of like the community actually making some kind of difference in the world that you're playing in. And that's literally what's going on here. Yeah, there's bots in this game. There's bots in every game. But if we avoid that one for just a minute, guild control and Maple Story politics, that to me sounds like that there are people who have been here for a long time, they have turf going on, and you either have to try to figure out ways to get around that turf, or you have to take subpar XP rates. And to me, I've never had to do that. I've always found really good maps, at least all the way up to level 230, 240. I've never, once you get past that point, it does sort of get kind of haggard because there are fewer and fewer places because there's less and less content that's been made for those level ranges. But up to that point, man, I've never had any trouble finding this. And they're trying to combat that now with a new reboot server that no one had ever played on, and you can move to it right now. And the worlds are mostly empty, and it'll probably fill up over time, and people will migrate over. There's no guilds running things. It's a whole new world that you can go and explore and start in yourself. And then, like I said, if you want to be able to throw 20, 30 games at a game, or $20, $30 at a game and get a little bit better, you can do that on regular worlds in MapleStory. I just think it's a peculiar thing to try to get out here and say, oh, I need to be able to dominate in this game in a couple of months, or else I don't want to play it. I couldn't care less about anyone ever knowing who I am in a video game. If I could just keep to myself and then do all the content that I need to do to get what I want out of the video game, then that's fine to me. I play the games until I get to content that I'm not really enjoying, and then I take a break from it, and I come back and see if at that point in my life I have evolved to the point that now I can enjoy that content. And that's sort of just a way that I play games that I think makes me continue to enjoy games forever and allows me to enjoy a huge swath of games. I almost feel bad for people who have such a narrow vision of what a game's allowed to be that they don't get to play some of these games that I feel like are really, really fun and interesting and have a lot of these cool ideas. And even that guy in the earlier comment who said, I'm a game developer. It's like, I respect that, man, and I also have developed games and have written whole systems for tabletop games and have helped people create whole types of games that were based off of other video games like Sekiro, where we've written tabletop games that use different dice rolls and playing cards to be able to deflect attacks and things, and you get preference in your attack over theirs depending on what suit of card you put down. And I like to make games too, but I think that some of the things that I enjoy the most in video games are the things that are wildly different than other experiences I've already had. And I don't want to just find a game that is like World of Warcraft, but fixes all the things I don't like about World of Warcraft. I don't think that exists. I think that game becomes what that game becomes over time, and that you can't just take that game and fix all of the problems with it, because the problems are what make World of Warcraft World of Warcraft. And I appreciate World of Warcraft for being World of Warcraft. But I've never been somebody who has staked my entire personality in life about how World of Warcraft is doing at the current moment. So when it does bad and when it gets boring for me to play, I just log out and I go somewhere else and do something else. And this is the thing that I think most people lack the ability to do, who want to yell and get angry about video games that they've played for 7,000 hours, is like, dude, you got it. You got what you need out of it. You had a experience that you'll remember for the rest of your life. And yes, it ended in this certain kind of way that might be negative, but you got the experience still. You won. You didn't have to spend a whole bunch of money. You got to play a game that was free and you had never played before. You got to do all these new and unique systems. You got to understand a whole bunch of ways that you can put something together, and then you can move away from it. You don't have to continue playing forever. This happened to me with Dead by Daylight. I played it for about 600, 700 hours, and then I started to get really tired of all the nonsense that was going on in that game, and I don't play it hardly ever anymore. I left. And it's fine. I can go back to it and play a couple matches and have a laugh here and there, but I don't need to get Iridescent 1 every single season in order to feel good about myself. That way lies a madness. If you have to dominate in a video game where what you're really competing for is how much of your time you're spending logged onto this, and by the way, other people who started 10 years before you and have 20,000 hours more of time, you're going to have to throw away a significant chunk of your life to ever have any hope of catching up to them. That's a crazy thing to think about doing. And if you want to be that crazy person, then I respect the hell out of you, and please make a video about it, because I want to watch you play MapleStory for 20,000 hours to try to catch up with them and quit your jobs and move back in with your parents. I want to see that video series. That would slap, dude. But like, I think it's a crazy thing to do. So I kind of don't know what we're arguing here about. Whenever people watch a video like this and they get really, really upset about the things that I say, like somehow me having this varied opinion from this happened on the vegan video that I made too, is somehow puts their opinion about the thing in danger, that somehow someone else logging into this game and enjoying it is downgrading their personality or their experience or something. It's a fallacy that you're playing into. It's not true. That doesn't happen. You don't have to feel super defensive about that. Man, this is the thing is I can see how people could think, when they watch my video, they could think this guy thinks he's an authority on this. I'm not. And if you're still watching this video 30 minutes, and this is the thing, the people who watch the videos to the end understand. There is a lot of rambling and a lot of ranting, but at the end of the day, we get somewhere with it. And that's what we're trying to do, is get somewhere with it. And yeah, you got to stick around through it, but you got to stick around through MapleStory too. I understand how people could think that I'm some kind of an authority, because I'm making a video with a camera that looks decent and I have good lighting on me, and I'm saying all of these things in a voice that sounds really confident. But I feel confident in it because it's the way that I feel and the things that I believe. But that has nothing to do with you. You either like the opinion or you don't. And if you take it and you just sort of listen to what I have to say, you could see my points in it. You can understand why I feel that way. And it's because I'm not someone who has sacrificed a huge chunk of my life in order to become dominant in a video game. It's just because I play a lot of video games. A lot of different kinds of video games. I play video games for 30 hours. I play them for 4,000 hours. I play video games that are extremely punishing and difficult. I play video games that are extremely relaxing and fun. I play video games that are RPGs. I play video games that are shooters. I play puzzle games. I play tabletop games. I like games. And because I like games, I like every type of game, and I like experiencing the way that other people put those games together. And I just, I don't think it's a thing about being right or wrong. I think it's a thing about enjoying this hobby that I have. It's the same thing to me as when I see somebody who is in a guitarist Instagram reel and they're talking shit to that person about how they play. And I just think no guitarist who is experienced at guitar would ever talk shit to another guitarist, because that either they are actually not very good, and this is just a canon event that they have to follow through with, and it's a process that happens, and we were all not very good at one point in time, or that what they're doing is actually really complicated and difficult, and you go, oh wow, that's a really hard thing to do. I can't do all of those things. I'm not going to sit here and act like I could, so I'm just going to move along. And it's telling to me whenever I see people go into comments and start trying to be Mr. I know everything and you're wrong about this and that, and here's why you're wrong. And you can't disprove someone's opinion. It's their opinion. That's what happens. And this isn't even an argument about you being wrong or me being right. It's about you have an opinion and I have an opinion, and that's just the way life is, dude. I don't understand why people have to be such assholes, or like why people want to so vividly want everyone to obey what they say and nobody else. No, you can't listen to anyone else's opinion on this. You have to do what I tell you. I just don't get that. Like, maybe it's because I've always just bucked authority my entire life or whatever, but I just don't respond well to someone trying to tell me what to do, what to think, or how to behave. I just don't, and I never will, and I'm never going to listen to it, and I'm never going to release some kind of apology where I was wrong about this thing, and that person told me what was up, and now I feel bad. Like, dude, I don't care, bro. If you want to type out the comment, maybe I'll read it on the video like this, I don't know. Let's go and read a vegan comment while we're at it, since we're already in this headspace. Oh man, this video is going to be freaking weird. I've rambled so much. I don't know, man. This is what happens when I'm not kept on track by a video. You know, this is why I react to videos. I love doing this. I love making the content, you know. I love showing up and sort of furthering the conversation and poking where I need to poke in order to get people to talk so that I can respond to things. Dude, the vegan comments were insane. I'm not going to shout these people out because most of them are borderline brain dead because they're lacking all those nutrients in their brains. But let's talk about these vegan I don't know how this is such an out of left field video that I think mostly only vegans watch it. So a lot of people who you know, people who I've seen your comments a few times in a row now, and I'm starting to sort of know your names and things. And by the way, if you've commented a few times and I haven't responded to you, I've probably seen your comments. I just haven't had a thought that I felt like I should say back to you. But like, I'm getting to know you, and if you want me to know you, the best thing you can do is just to continue involving yourself in the conversation, and we'll talk about it. So a lot of people, this is a really funny thing about vegans. A lot of vegans, again, a thing that attracts a certain type of people, right? Vegans attract people who have a superiority complex. It's the same thing with Christianity. I'm not saying all Christians have a superiority complex. I'm not saying all vegans have a superiority complex. Some people are there for different reasons, and I think those reasons are usually better, but it's a thing that doesn't take a lot of effort that you can then lord over top of other people to make yourself feel like they're less important than you. And that's attractive to a certain type of people who want to feel like they're more important than other people and feel like that they have to find ways to make themselves more important than other people. So a lot of times you get young people because superiority complexes run rampant in really young people. But it's funny to me, and I probably won't read any specific comments here, but people would say things to me in this video like, huh, he doesn't even know the difference between veganism and a plant-based diet. Buddy, if you look up veganism, it is by definition a person who abstains from eating animal products and also probably abstains from wearing any animal products or using any animal products. It is literally that. Someone also said, Buddy doesn't even know what a diet is because I called it a diet. And it is. A diet is by definition a set of foods that a person chooses to eat. That's what a diet is. It's the vegan diet. And it's funny to me that people want to give me medical advice when they literally can't think. Like, people using the wrong form of to, people misspelling words, people using improper sentence structure. And these are all things that I do as well. But when you're trying to show that you are way smarter than somebody else, maybe you want to go back and double check your spelling and grammar, because this is the point when I'm going to start poking holes at you. When you are trying to make a superiority argument to me that veganism is the only healthy diet, that's the only way that you should eat, that it's morally superior because eating animals is totally wrong, and all these different things, and that you can totally eat a vegan diet and healthy, and you're just dumb if you couldn't do it right, all these things. You need to spell your words right. You just do. If you don't spell your words right, I'm just going to write you off as being some bozo who's just on here trying to stir up trouble. That's what I'm going to do. But man, if I wanted views, dude, I would just make video after video after video poking at vegans because they show up to watch things that make them angry like almost nobody else on the internet does. It is absolutely astounding the way that works. Man. Anyways, guys, that's probably about all the comments I want to read. This video is already 37 minutes long. I don't feel like pushing it super, super long. Like I said, I had an extremely long day. We had a show that we had vented at, and I'm really tired, to be completely honest. I know people don't care. I wouldn't care. I wouldn't want people to tell me this. But honestly, I'm just like really freaking spent today. I've been working nonstop for 11 days or something, like 12 hours a day, just absolutely going ham out there and trying to get things together where, in the process of some changes around here. And it's been tough, but I hope you guys are doing well, man. I hope that the people who do watch this video and the people who show up to hang out and who like my channel, not just as passerbys, but have started to develop some kind of camaraderie with me and understand a little bit about who I am and are starting to sort of paint the picture in their mind about me. I hope you guys are doing good right now, man. I hope that life is treating you well. I hope that you're having fun out there. I hope you're playing some cool video games or surviving in the hellscape that is the modern economy, or playing music or doing whatever it is that makes you happy out there, and that day to day you're enjoying your life and that bad things aren't happening to you nonstop. And if they are, I hope that you're dealing with them well and you're enjoying the process of struggling the same way that I enjoy the process of struggling, and usually in retrospect, not in the moment, but that you're appreciating the life that you have to live, and things are something for you. I want to say that they're what you want them to be, but I know that's not how life works. So I hope that there's something for you. And yeah, guys, I don't know. I don't want to stop talking for some reason, but I guess I'm going to get out of here. Thanks for watching. Sunday we'll do some more comments if I make some videos that more people comment on. And yeah, I appreciate you guys, like, for real. It sounds really dumb, but thanks.